Australia, I'm so disappointed. Hey guys, it's Rami. I'm just making a video in regards to a recent poll that has been released here in Australia. This poll was actually done twice because the first time, those that conducted the poll couldn't really believe the results and thought there must be some bias thrown in here. So they actually did this poll two times to verify that the numbers would be statistically similar. As a matter of fact, both times they did this poll, the numbers were pretty much the same. Those that were polled were either Greens, Labor, or Liberal voters, which are the three main primary voting options in the country. The question in the poll was, should Australia ban Muslim immigration? 49% of Australians agree that Muslims should be banned from immigrating to Australia. That's pretty much every 1 in 2 people. I was baffled at first. I said, this can't be. And these poll results have really increased the confidence of these political leaders like Pauline Hanson and the One Nation Party to basically say to the parliament and to the Australian public and to all the skeptics out there, told you so. That's exactly what they're doing. They're taking advantage of these poll results to basically say, you see, the Australian people are bigoted like us. Woohoo! Very disappointing. What we have learned clearly is that fear works. And what we have learned is that we tend to have no problem with policies that openly discriminate against people based on their religion. It's a very xenophobic idea. Now, again, I'm aware that these poll results, maybe I'm speaking too generally here, but let's just stick with the results of the poll. And that's how my opinion will be diverted in the angle of a 49% favor for banning Muslim immigration. In 2011, there was a poll that I researched very thoroughly that basically asked Australians if they were anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic. And guess what? 49% of the poll respondents said yes, we are anti-Islam or anti-Muslim. What I found is, based on those poll results in 2011, and the poll results we're getting right now, 5 years later in 2016, the numbers are pretty much exactly the same. 49% are anti-Islamic or anti-Muslim. 49% support a ban on Muslim immigration. So that makes sense. But what upsets me is that these poll results show that nobody has learned anything, that nothing has changed, that this mentality is sitting stagnant. It's not changing. And unfortunately now, with the rise of these political powers, like the One Nation Party and Pauline Hanson, I sadly think if we were to conduct this poll again in 5 years' time, it will be even more embarrassing. The highest poll result was, the reason that Australians support a Muslim immigration ban is because they fear the Muslims do not integrate into Australian society. Oh my God. Ay, 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 ay. Newsflash. Anybody that breaks the law of this country is not integrating to the Australian way of life. Anyone that breaks the laws of our nation is someone that is going against the Australian way. That's just what it is. We already have people in this nation every day that are not integrating into Australian culture, and they're not Muslim either. And the fact of the matter is, we are not calling to ban anyone or anything. Go look at the domestic violence cases in Australia, most of which are conducted by non-Muslim men. Do we talk about a ban of men? Do we talk about a ban of Caucasian men? None of this happens. These guys are going against the Australian way of life, openly. They're not integrating into our society, but nobody is calling for a ban of such people. Why are you specifically targeting these people with a discriminatory policy in fear of a lack of integration, when we already have people in our own country that fail to integrate into our own society. But we're not doing anything about it. We're not holding posters saying that we should ban certain people based on their sex, based on their religion, based on their race. But when it comes to Islam, suddenly it's okay for us to have these xenophobic laws and xenophobic ideas and for them to become almost mainstream. Lack of integration is not an excuse. Anybody that breaks the Australian law is not integrating with the Australian way of life. Anybody. So your fears are unfounded. Your fears should be with the people that are already in this country, with the people that are not integrating with the Australian way of life. And lo and behold, a lot of these people that are not integrating into our society, a lot of these crims in all departments, are not even Muslim. So what are you doing about it? Where's your battle cry? I'm just thinking, are you that ignorant that you don't realize this? Or are you actually that open to xenophobic views that you don't really think there's a problem with it? Because let me tell you, there is a problem with that. The fact that we are speaking about banning human beings from coming into our country because we fear they will not integrate into our way of life is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. It's ridiculous because the irony is so intense. When the British came to this country, did they integrate with the Aboriginal way of life? They did not. They did not follow suit. They did not integrate. They actually came, invaded, and forced their own laws on the people that inhabited this land. Look, I'm all about the Australian culture and obeying the Australian law. That is something that I'm absolute about. But the fact of the matter is, your fears of a lack of integration from these people are unfounded. And I'm not sympathetic to your fears at all. Because I think your fears are based on either ignorance or they're based on bigotry. It cannot be coming from anywhere else because it's not a reasonable gesture. It's not a reasonable idea. And you fear that they're going to be violent or they're going to commit terror acts. As I said, that will just make them as un-Australian as somebody that breaks the law that was born here and that's Caucasian. There's no difference amongst them. So why are we making a special case for Muslims? We have 500,000 Muslims in this country, and the huge majority of them have integrated into our way of life just fine. Huge majority of them obey the laws of this country. The huge majority of them call this country home. And to claim that Muslims haven't integrated into the Australian way of life, when they have in fact had a history that runs so deep in this country. Go read about the Makassar trade, the Makassar Indonesian Muslims that traded with the Aboriginals in the Northern Territory about 100 years before Captain James Cook even set foot on this land. The oldest mosque in Australia is almost 150 years old. The Ghan train line that runs across the center of Australia was built by the Afghan Cameleers, who the majority were Muslim. And you're telling us that Muslims don't integrate into our country when they have quite literally helped build this nation. It's absolutely pathetic. And these polls show to me that it just causes huge disappointment in me that my fellow Australians think this way and openly think this way about fellow human beings and that are very open and willing to discriminate against people with xenophobic ideas simply because of their religion. One who breaks our laws, regardless of them being black or white, or Muslim or atheist, is not adhering to our way of life. Anyone that breaks the Australian law is not integrating. Just think about that. And I really hope that something went wrong with these polls. It tears my head in that people think this way. It's terribly sad. All right, have a good night. Peace out.